things that's been real successful for us so far, and again, we're just at the beginning, so I can't advise that much, but has been that some of the people that we brought into our core planning team were people with a lot of experience in planning already other events. We have a guy who runs the Geek Media Expo and the Middle Tennessee Anime Convention, and he's bringing an entire army of volunteers with him. So and so that helps a lot. You know, we've partnered and we've done a lot of really cool things to help us with our first year. Where I'm actually kind of having some issues with trying to figure out what our core team needs to do.
With the groups bringing in volunteers,
Yeah.
I would really suggest that you have some sort of free time with them or something, so they really get this is a maker fair.
Yeah.
This is not the Geek This or the DEF CON that. It is its own living entity, so that they get what that is. I do a lot of tech conferences, and I love them, but they can get really. They can get real judgmental with each other, and they get really pushy with each other. And that is not what I would want in my maker fair.
I have a question.
And I think it's a simple thing to get them through.
Scale. First year maker fairs. I'd love to know what other people did in terms of how many makers and how many attendees.
How big is your city? How big is your area that you would draw on?
The county, the Upper County.
How many people? Sorry.
It's likely, I don't know, probably more cyclists than people, more bicyclists than people. It's not our population.
That's a good community.
But make sure you publish that you have safe bicycle parking and potentially bicycle valet.
Oh, I'm all up. I signed up
We
for
had a
Marin
very
Bicycle
small
Coalition.
first year.
So now, I'd like to know how many makers and
We
how many
had
attendees.
75 makers our first year. We had approximately 30 volunteers. I would have doubled that number if I could have, and I'm looking to do that or triple it for this year. Our attendance was not great. There was, and this is one of the things to pay attention to. We were in the middle of the state fair, and ISEA, which is the International Symposium for Electronic Arts, which had not been in the U.S. for 7 years, was that same weekend. So that was a bit of a challenge, and we sort of co-located with ISEA, and we had a good relationship. If you find there are other events on the weekend or the day you're doing it, see if you can get a conversation with their organizer, and even if there's any kind of connection, do some sort of connection. It's like, great, so people from your event come into my event with their badge, they can get a wristband from me for half the
You
price.
say not great. Do you have I mean, was it 200? Was it 2,000? Did you have expectations?
Oh, we had, well, yeah, I had expectations. We had just over 700.
Okay.
And my volunteers were actually like, are you okay with this? Because, I mean, my company was financing it. And I said, yeah, because what this is telling me is the vision we have for how this will be in Albuquerque and what this means to New Mexico is right. So now we start building for the second year. We're going to 2 days. We changed locations, so because people said it's hard to park downtown. There's just, listening to what comes back from your attendee surveys and from your maker surveys, and take that into account. Yes, we charged $10 in advance for adults, $5 for children. At the door, we charged $15 for adults, and we kept children at $5.
So do you have like a fenced-in area then? Do you have like a fenced-in area, or
We did.
Playbook says start a couple months earlier, start as soon as you can, because your scale is going to depend upon how much advanced marketing you have to get involved.
How many?
Start tomorrow.
Do you know how many makers you're aiming for?
I'm looking at 30 to 40. I'm in sort of an unusual, I'm the marketing director of the shopping center. And I said, hey, I'm a maker, let's have a maker fair. And they said, what's that? And I explained it, and they said, okay. So I actually have a budget. I started marketing like 3 months ago.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm in festivals, I'm in
Honestly,
newspaper.
where you are, I mean, you should have makers falling out of the woodwork.
Just on IOM alone, I have
Yeah.
so that's not the issue. It's more about
So-
educating people.
So we had, to answer your first question, we had 50 makers, 1,000 attendees, And I think some first years, depending on how deep they get into the community, they might have 2,500. I don't know. Do a lot have more than that?
Atlanta, we had about 2,500 first year, but it's Atlanta, and it was at Georgia Tech, and it's a huge field. We now
Yeah.
have tripled that number. There's about 150 makers and 7,500 people.
Yeah.
So I was thinking we would start with that sort of realm with 50 and 1,000 people and go from there. And I've been setting up these collaborations throughout the community. So for example, I went to the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery, and they have 65,000 members. And they said the problem we have of cross-promoting with people is that we cross-promote and then our members all show up and overwhelm people. And so they said, we will promote the heck out of you. And what they're going to do is they're going to have badges so that anyone who comes into the summer, it would say, you know, get your badge, go to the Maker Fair. So they've got 65,000 members. Then we have an art group that has 30,000 people that comes every year for Assemble, which is making sculptures out of recycled art. And we have an art walk that gets 25,000 members. And they're all gonna, so this is just a small scope of all the people that are cross-promoting with us. So I'm looking at this and going, we've got partnerships now with people who have access to 120,000 people. So if we have out of the 120,000 people that get promoted to,
If you get 1% of each of those groups, you will be thrilled.
Partnerships for marketing.
Because that's a great response.
yeah, I'm
That's a
looking at
really
that
good
going, I could
response.
really have a 5,000 person event.
Yeah.
Very, very
And you have space
easily.
for it, so.
I've got the space, but my question is, if I have 5,000 people coming, just as a place to aim, and 5 months to get together, how many makers and how much space do I need to match that? So in that scale question, because I need to tell the city of Loveland, it's given me the space, well, how many buildings do I want? And I need to scale that. So is there a calculation for 5,000 people, for how many makers do I need, and how many square feet do I need?
So the playbook and Sabrina, when we did ours, we were expecting about 2,000 people. We got about 3. And we thought we were gonna have about 25 makers, and she said that's not enough.
Yeah.
Because you don't want bottlenecks, you don't want people around, and we had that still. We had some booths where there were a lot of people trying to get in, and not a lot, but you need to have enough makers, so you're not gonna have people.
So what's the calculation for that?
We're going to look at your demographics in community too, because the demographic says it's a 44-year-old guy who lives in that. So for those you have, within your community, and if there's a great guide that they published, the Maker Survey, that shows you the age of the makers. So overlay that to the demographics of your community, and you can get a pretty good number of how many people most likely come to your community. Sort of a near maximum for that.
So once I get
the
that, how many
playbooks- the
booths do you need as an attendee?
If you look at this event as an idea of the formula, I would assume this year they're looking at about 150,000 over the 2 days. They have 900 makers. If you just do the math on that, fractions, then that will get you in the ballpark.
Although I think it scales slightly.
The playbook has a scale in there. We're talking about how many makers to attendees, how many do you have?
Right.
And, I was talking about our discussion because you said it's not enough. And, we were gonna have 25 to 2,000. And we ended up with more, and we still had some bottlenecks and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but, the playbook has suggestions for
We
that.
could offer a little bit more of a table
Yeah.
about that, though. I think we could add that because I think that I can say it by gut at this point. I maybe didn't know that when I did the playbook originally. I want to give you guys a warning. We've got about 4 minutes before we come back together to present. So whatever you need to do to. Pardon me?
So what's your gut?
What was the scale? How many attendees?
Say 5,000.
I'd say you'd want at least 75 makers, 75 exhibits for 5,000.
It needs to be makers that are really doing hands-on.
With some component of hands-on, I mean, I'd say that would be your minimum benchmark for dealing with that many people. You wouldn't want to be smaller than that more comfortably. I don't know, does that sound right to people? 100?
I'd go over
Yeah.
100, yeah.
I mean, I do my event, the mini that I do, as a volunteer is 5,000 in one day, and we have 150. And that's, you know, it's good. There's good distribution.
I want to share one thing about building into your next year. Designate people to take pictures, take videos.
Oh, yeah.
That's
As
huge.
much media that you possibly could have to help with
Yeah, that-
marketing, helping recruit people next year.
Sponsorship.
Sponsorship. everything.
That's
And
huge.
Make sure you can document your numbers. If there's any way you can, if your tickets are free, if you can get an Eventbrite ticket that just signs them up, have a raffle, get someone to count your attendance because that's going to be very valuable too. So prove your event. And we did videos of every
And then Sabrina will be
single
happier
night,
if you
what
have the
what do you do?
numbers too.
And we have them on Facebook all the time. We had this guy last year. We had this guy last year. Keep your social media up, but document everything. The
And
process
it's not just anybody. Actually, go after a good photographer. Don't just get anybody who says I'm a good photographer. You actually, because there's a big difference in mediocre images and powerful images. And so whatever you
But also
can
reach out to
do.
the community further, even their not so great ones, find them on your Facebook and their collection,
Yeah.
join your
You
collection.
can set up a Flickr account for your event and ask your attendees to, and everybody to just put stuff there.
Yeah,
But as far as having a real photographer, like the whole thing that's gone on the last month or so, pulling pictures from Maker Faire, mini Maker Fairs from Make Magazine, they have to be high resolution for print. They have to be this and that. So things that people pull off their cell phone that is down to the small size, not so good. It could be a great picture, but it can't be printed. It can't go into print.
Yeah, I mean, these ones are pretty, the cameras are getting better.
If they sell it.
Another thing, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I get this, about documentation that has really helped us going from year 2 to year 3 is having everybody do a post-mortem at the end and say, this is what I did. This is where the information exists that I collected. These were the makers I spoke to. This was the outcome. Like, I actually think that we should probably get a content management system for all of the people we're dealing with, including sponsors, makers, volunteers, everything, because there's relationships that we're building along the way, and if we forget someone, we forget a sponsor, that's like, they feel like what's happening, like there's this whole customer service element that we're realizing, and I think if you can get people to do written postmortems and then, write down, like I say, exactly what they're doing. Even I'm struggling with that, like, on the way here I was like, what am I doing on Maker Faire this year? And it's just like writing all the notes down, because that's the most valuable thing for your team moving forward. And just get people to externalize as much as possible, because you're gonna forget, the next year's gonna come around.
Google Forms is great for that. You need to know for everybody, and it reminds them, email everyone to say, best experience, worst experience, what were your problems, and then Google Forms puts all that into a spreadsheet for you, so you can have it, put that into your drive for your next year's team. And if you lose somebody or lose something, all of your content, everything is up in a drive, with forms and information in one place.
another really powerful thing on Emily's comment is if you can let the sponsors know after the fact, you got a bunch of people giving you money, say, here's how many attendees we had, here's how many people saw, here's the type of engagement, show some pictures, they're much more likely to sponsor you next year. And
You should see the reports that Maker Faire does for their sponsors. It's serious work. Like, yeah, they're actually kind of, I can't share them, but there is we could probably do something around a template. But just an outline. I mean, the reporting is really powerful for them because they get metrics, they get a good image, they get to bring it back to their boss. It's paper pushing, but there's like a validation, and then you have strengthened your relationship for the next year, and you have stuff you can share with. Even if it's just a one-pager with just 3 compelling facts about your event that's visually appealing, it makes all the difference.
We had one sponsor our first year, one financial sponsor, Intel, came in with a nice little chunk of money, it was quite great, and sent their robotics people out to show stuff. And they had a good time. They sent their photographer to the Maker Faire so they could document what they were doing. And we got there, and I said, well, hopefully you'll join us again next year and all that stuff. And he said, yeah, well, we'll talk about it later. And then I'm sitting in my office and the phone rings a couple of months later, and it's our person from Intel, and she's like, we have a grant for you. It's 4 times what they did the first year. And by the way,
can you send that email?
and that's why it's why we became a nonprofit, because the first year we worked with the local makerspace, and so the money went through them. We bought equipment. The equipment's in the makerspace. It's all clear. But for this, it was like, oh, and literally within 24 hours, we had a 501c3 full federal nonprofit status.
Yeah, we got non-for-profit too. I would highly recommend that.
Yeah.
So most people who are doing this, are you thinking about doing a 501c3 or
Or work with somebody who has one.
Yeah, we didn't in the first year, but running it through somebody else means that there's always delays. You need money, you need checks cash.
Depends. I mean, depends who you're working with, but
A hackerspace there is.
One more thing about your data before we go. Use Eventbrite. You can run reports before you let that go, and they want complete demographic reports of all your attendees, where they came from. That's what sponsors want to know. What type of group contributes, what age group, where did they come from, and that will help you with marketing your event next year. So keep all the data you can, anything you can find. Eventbrite is excellent. So once you take it, even if they're free, through them, then you can get amazing in-depth detailed reports that you'll use next year.
So basically, you need a project manager to volunteer early on.
No, I mean, you set it up and you ask questions like, how old are you, zip code, are you kids, your interests, and collect that information.
Just a quick question, because I'm not from the US. I mean, is non-profit non-taxable? Is that why you guys prefer it?
It's not exactly something that's non-taxable, like the ticket, where we're selling a ticket and they give the ticket as value. It's taxable in my state. It's a different thing. For a sponsor who is coming in, they can either, I mean, and for sponsors, it kind of depends on the company. It's a marketing cost for them, so it's a write-off in that sense. But there are big companies that have community outreach divisions, and the money that comes from that part of that company, by the company's definition, has to go to a nonprofit. And our nonprofit was set up under School Factory, which is why it was so easy to make that turn.
Oh, okay, so you were with a fiscal sponsor. So that's by fiscal sponsorship means that you are working with somebody who already has a 501c3.
Yes,
They
they have-
extend that to you.
Yes.
But they are going to process your loan.
How
They're
do
going to
you-
process your grant.
how do you keep that from them taking? My concern is that if we have,
They have
that
no
money goes into
interest in
us,
taking
goes
it.
into this
It's
501c3.
going to be in your
Someone
contract.
will
Make
get-
sure the contract is something you can live with and that you
Yeah.
believe in. Their contracts will, if they have veto rights and all that stuff, but you have words to negotiate what they want to be in your contract. Make sure it works for your organization.
Yeah.
When you find a fiscal sponsor that is going to do that, typically they're going to take a percentage of the grants and money that comes through because they're going to go back in paperwork. But they don't want management of the event.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
I've never, there was never anybody that threatened to take over all the volunteer work required to make.
I wanted to throw something in. I'd say another part of the postmortem, and maybe you hit this, sorry I wasn't here, but just really articulating clear goals. Being, like, driving your postmortems, like, what do you guys want the next year? What are the goals? Because really articulating them helps make them happen. How many people do you want? How many makers do you want? What makers didn't you get that you really want to get? What civic leaders didn't participate? What food problems? Like, really just be clear about what you want the next year so that you're driving as a group towards this vision for a better event.
It's a great time to find out what didn't work too. You invite everybody out for a beer. By the third beer, you find everything that went wrong because they weren't going to say anything before, but like you have every little detail. That's your starting list for next year. What do we not do right? What do we fix? To make
I
it better?
actually feel very strongly that when you do the postmortem, you really want to start with what was your favorite part of this event. Because all of the stuff that they didn't do, that didn't quite make what they thought, is churning in their head. And I don't want them digging themselves into the ground. I want to start with, like, look at the amazing thing we just did together. Now, how much more amazing can it be? Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things from my perspective that it's really important there, because otherwise it can get not fun.
If we take anything away from the meetings, document every single part of the process. If
Yeah.
someone's going to forget, then
Yeah.
it's going to be different. But that doesn't
At the very least, create a Google Drive shared folder, make sure everybody dumps everything in there, and then that becomes archival for next year.
Every once in a while, somehow download that, because I've had documents disappear off Google Drive. And they were kind of important documents, which was scary.
And start earlier. And we should talk about that for too. Is it the most effective for building up relationships?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to know more about that because we're following our calendar.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I find, it'll suck whatever you can give. So, it really will. It's like a wedding. It'll consume every bit of free bandwidth you have and you're willing to give, and it will give you returns in relationship to that what you give. You can, and there's totally different levels of fair people doing it. Museums kind of doing it as a special event and they're just done with it and they roll into whatever is next. Or there's people that's their one thing they do is the Maker Faire, and that's the biggest thing that they do. And it's really interesting from us, from a brand perspective, dealing with people who have those different goals or points of view or identification with the fair. It's a different character, and it's not like we say one's better than the other, but I like to also in relationship to that, continuing the voice through the year and continuing, don't just die, but continue to document and to share news about the yard sale at the hot rod shop or whatever, and continue to build in and reiterate your authentic relationship with the Maker community through the news that you're sharing. So you just continue to build that sense of you're an authentic place of connection and connective tissue for the Maker movement and where you live.
A couple of quick little things that popped up when I was doing notes. When you're setting up Facebook, Twitter, G+ accounts, do not attach the year of your event to it. Because we had to restart our Facebook page and redo all the likes and all that kind of jazz because we had 2012 Maker Faire. And there was something else, but it went away.
Do you have a problem managing your volunteers and following the Maker Faire rules? Like I've already started people saying to me, you have to say no co-mini Maker Faire because they start saying Maker Faire instead.
Well, my big issue is our original year was the Albuquerque-minimakerfair.com. And I sent Sabrina a note. I said, Sabrina, even those of us who live in New Mexico can't spell Albuquerque. So we're now Maker Faire ABQ.
Yeah, airport codes for the win.
We still have the original URL, but all the simpler ones feed